The hegemony's bureaucrats had outdone themselves with this particular act of creative stupidity. After 3 millennia of conquest built on the backs of their apex predator castes, some middle management genius had decided that efficient resource allocation required downsizing the military. Not retiring them with honor, of course. That would cost pension credits. Instead, they were liquidating their most lethal assets like surplus office furniture. Which was how 12 of the galaxy's most efficient killing machines found themselves chained in the cargo hold of a transport bound for Kepler Station's exotic labor auction. The irony was so thick you could mine it for industrial lubricants. "Lot 47, announced the Solarian auctioneer, his voice carrying the enthusiasm of someone who sold death for a living and enjoyed every moment. 12 prime Vorthak specimens from the disbanded 3rd Hunting Caste, military grade, fully trained, minimal psychological scarring from decommissioning. The auction floor buzzed with the kind of excitement usually reserved for volcanic eruptions or spectacular ship crashes. Representatives from mining consortiums leaned forward in their hovering observation pods, calculating how many tunnel collapses a Vorthak could survive. Entertainment moguls whispered numbers to their accountants, already envisioning the ticket sales from gladiatorial combat between apex predators. In the specimen holding area below, Kethmore flexed his claws against the neural dampening restraints and considered the mathematical probability of killing everyone in the auction house before the stunners brought him down. The calculations were oddly comforting, even if the numbers weren't promising. "Look at them bid on us like we're construction equipment," growled Vel Karis, the pack's second-in-command. Her scarred muzzle twisted in disgust as she watched the holographic price displays climbing. "The Crystalline Collective wants us for their asteroid mining operations. The Nexus Entertainment Empire thinks we'd make good gladiators. And that Hutt consortium over there is probably planning dinner parties." "At least they acknowledge what we are," Kethmore replied. "Weapons." Over 97% of viewers here are watching without subscribing. Don't be one of them. Hit that subscribe button right now and join the journey. Every click helps us grow stronger, and you'll never miss the next epic story. Tools of violence. There's a certain honesty in that. The bidding war between the Crystalline Collective and Nexus Entertainment had reached the kind of numbers that made accountants weep with joy. Both factions understood the value of apex predators. One wanted them to kill rocks, the other wanted them to kill each other for profit. Simple, logical, deeply insulting, but at least comprehensible. Then a new bidder raised his placard. The human wore standard-issue coveralls that screamed agricultural worker, not entertainment mogul or mining executive. His placard bore the logo of something called the Verdant Agricultural Consortium, which sounded about as threatening as a flower arrangement. When he raised his bid, it exceeded both the Crystalline Collective and Nexus Entertainment by 30%. The auction house fell silent. In the holding pen, 12 predators turned their attention to this anomaly, with the focused intensity of creatures bred to identify threats. Did a prey species just outbid everyone else for a pack of apex predators? Velkaris asked, her voice carrying the tone of someone whose worldview had just been fed into a blender. The Solarian auctioneer recovered first, as auctioneers do. Outstanding bid from the Verdant Agricultural Consortium. Do I hear any counters? The crystalline representative activated their translation matrix, projecting words that sounded like rocks being ground into dust. Query: agricultural use case for military-grade predators unclear. Request clarification from human bidder. The human stood up, and Kethmore noted with professional interest that he moved like someone who understood violence even if he didn't advertise it. Dr. Ezra Thorne, xenobiologist. The consortium requires livestock protection specialists for our Verdant Prime operation. These specimens meet our requirements. Livestock protection. The words hit the holding pen like a neural disruptor. "Livestock protection?" Velkaris repeated, her voice climbing to frequencies that made the translator implants whine. "They want us to guard prey animals?" "From what?" demanded Jektal, the pack's tracker. "Other predators? That's like using a plasma cannon to light a candle." The crystalline representative tried again. "Counterproposal. Mining applications more suitable for apex predator capabilities. Combat scenarios frequent in asteroid operations." "Natural fit." Dr. Thorne shook his head. "With respect, your operations treat them as expendable assets. We prefer to optimize our investments." Now that was interesting phrasing. Kethmore had spent enough time around military commanders to recognize the difference between someone who saw soldiers as ammunition and someone who saw them as strategic resources. This human spoke like the latter, which was disturbing for reasons the Vorthak couldn't quite articulate. The Nexus Entertainment representative, a bloated creature whose species had evolved from scavengers, wheezed his objection. "Gladiatorial combat showcases apex predator abilities. Natural environment. Entertainment value enormous." "Natural environment." Dr. Thorne's voice carried amusement. "Forcing predators to fight each other for alien entertainment is natural? That's fascinating xenobiology, though I suspect your definition of natural differs from mine." The human's casual dismissal of multi-billion credit entertainment empire carried the kind of quiet confidence that made Kethmore's predator instincts sit up and pay attention. Prey animals didn't usually mock apex predators with such casual indifference. "Going once," called the auctioneer, clearly hoping someone would rescue him from this bizarre bidding situation. The crystalline collective projected one final attempt. "Human, agricultural operations, inefficient use of military assets. Logical fallacy evident." Dr. Thorne smiled, and Kethmore noticed that the expression didn't reach his eyes. "Efficiency is contextual. Your mining operations have a 60% casualty rate. Our livestock protection program has maintained 0 fatalities for 8 standard years. Which approach optimizes asset longevity?" "Going twice." In the holding pen, 12 apex predators found themselves in the unprecedented position of being purchased by a prey species for purposes that defied every natural law they understood. The cognitive dissonance was almost worse than the neural dampeners. "Sold to the Verdant Agricultural Consortium." As the gavel fell, Kethmore caught Dr. Thorne's eye through the reinforced transparisteel. The human nodded once, not the gesture of a master acknowledging property, but something closer to a soldier's salute. A recognition between professionals, which made absolutely no sense because humans were prey animals who farmed plants, and Vorthak were apex predators who killed everything that moved. The universe had rules about these things, and Dr. Ezra Thorne had just broken several of them with a 30% overpay and a casual smile. As the transport cage sealed around them for their journey to Verdant Prime, Velkaris voiced what they were all thinking. "I have no idea what just happened, but I don't think we're going to be guarding livestock." Kethmore tested his restraints one more time and considered the implications of being owned by a species that shouldn't have been able to afford them, didn't need them for any logical purpose, and spoke about efficiency like they'd invented the concept. The math was getting interesting. Verdant Prime looked like someone had taken the concept of abundance and beaten it senseless with a green stick. Rolling pastures stretched beyond the horizon, dotted with creatures that existed solely to be eaten by other creatures. The transport shuttle descended toward a complex of buildings that sprawled across several square kilometers. Not the sterile laboratory or combat arena the Vorthak had expected, but something that resembled a cross between a university and a small city. "Welcome to the ranch," Dr. Thorne announced as the cargo doors hissed open. "Before we discuss your assignments, I need to address some obvious misconceptions." Kethmore stepped onto the landing platform, his claws automatically adjusting for optimal grip on the metal surface. The air carried scents that his predator brain cataloged instantly. Herbivores in massive numbers, water sources, vegetation, and underneath it all, the distinctive chemical signature of humans. Lots of humans. Misconceptions? Velkaris asked, her ears swiveling to track the sounds of what could only be described as organized chaos. Human voices carried on the wind, machinery hummed in the distance, and somewhere beyond the main complex, something that sounded suspiciously like laughter echoed across the fields. You're expecting gladiatorial combat, medical experimentation, or some form of industrial labor? Dr. Thorne said, walking toward the main building complex. Understandable assumptions, given your recent experiences with bureaucratic efficiency. However, your actual job description is considerably more straightforward. A human woman emerged from the nearest building, wiping her hands on a cloth that had seen better decades. She looked the 12 apex predators up and down with the casual assessment of someone evaluating livestock, which was both insulting and oddly appropriate. "These are our new Guardian specialists?" she asked, addressing Dr. Thorne but keeping her eyes on the Vorthak. "They look capable enough. Bit smaller than the Corvin bears we used on the northern sectors, but those claws should handle most threats." Guardian specialists. Kethmore filed the term away for later analysis, along with the disturbing fact that humans apparently had experience with other apex predators in protective roles. "Mara supervises field operations," Dr. Thorne explained. "She'll be your primary coordination contact for active assignments." Jektal's tracking instincts kicked in, analyzing this Mara creature with professional interest. "Coordination contact? You speak as if we'll be working with you, not for you." "Semantics matter," Mara replied, her tone carrying the patience of someone who had explained obvious concepts to obvious predators before. "Working for us implies we give orders, and you follow them blindly. Working with us implies we provide intelligence, resources, and strategic support while you apply your expertise to solve problems. Which approach do you think optimizes mission success rates?" The question hit like a well-placed combat strike. In 3 millennia of military service, no hegemony commander had ever asked a Vorthak pack what they thought would optimize mission success. Orders came down from above, and predators executed them or died trying. The concept of collaborative strategy felt like trying to breathe underwater. "Our expertise?" Velkaris asked, suspicion heavy in her voice. "You mean killing things?" "I mean threat assessment, tactical planning, coordinated pack hunting, environmental adaptation, and lethal force application when necessary," Dr. Thorne corrected. "Killing things is just one tool in your operational toolkit. We're interested in the complete package." A ground vehicle approached across the fields, kicking up dust and carrying the scent of more humans. As it drew closer, Kethmore could see it was loaded with equipment that looked suspiciously like monitoring gear rather than restraint systems. "Your first assignment briefing," Mara announced. "We've got a situation developing in Sector 7 that requires immediate assessment." The vehicle stopped, and 2 more humans emerged. One carried what appeared to be a tactical display tablet. The other had a collection of instruments that Kethmore's military training identified as battlefield intelligence-gathering tools. "Report," Dr. Thorne ordered, and the humans responded with the crisp efficiency of a military unit. "Native Predator Pack has been testing our perimeter defenses for the past 6 days," the first human reported. "Razorwing Pack, estimated 12 to 15 individuals, hunting patterns suggest they're probing for systematic weaknesses rather than opportunistic feeding." "Coordinated intelligence gathering behavior," the second human added. "They're learning our patrol schedules and identifying vulnerable livestock concentrations." Velkaris felt her predator instincts sharpening despite her confusion. "You want us to eliminate the threat?" "We want your professional assessment of the threat," Mara corrected. threat analysis, recommended countermeasures, and implementation strategy. If elimination becomes necessary, you'll have full tactical autonomy to execute as you see fit. The words landed like physical blows. Full tactical autonomy. Professional assessment. Recommended countermeasures. These weren't the phrases of masters addressing tools. They were the language of military commanders consulting with specialists. "You're asking us to develop strategy?" Jektal asked, his tracker instincts trying to process this unprecedented situation. "Not just follow orders?" "Orders are for subordinates," Dr. Thorne replied. "You're consultants. Expensive consultants, I might add, given what we paid for your services." The human with the tactical tablet approached Keth Moore directly, offering the device with the casual respect of one professional providing intelligence to another. Current threat assessment data, patrol routes, livestock distribution patterns, and preliminary behavioral analysis of the Razorwing pack. Keth Moore took the tablet, his claws automatically adjusting to avoid damaging the display. The data was comprehensive, detailed, and organized with military precision. More importantly, it was being offered without restrictions, passwords, or oversight protocols. "This is complete operational intelligence," he said, suspicion warring with professional appreciation. "You're giving us access to your entire defensive infrastructure." "How else would you develop effective countermeasures?" Mara asked, as if the question were self-evident. "We could limit your access to information and then blame you when your strategies fail, or we could provide complete intelligence and benefit from your expertise. Which approach serves our mutual interests?" In the transport cage during their journey to Verdant Prime, 12 apex predators had speculated endlessly about what horrors awaited them. None of their theories had included being treated like military consultants by a prey species that apparently understood tactical cooperation better than the hegemony's command structure. "There's something fundamentally wrong with this situation," Velkaris muttered, studying the tactical data with growing fascination despite herself. "Agreed," Keth Moore replied, analyzing patrol patterns and livestock distribution with the focused intensity of a hunter studying prey. "But wrong in ways that make tactical sense." The irony was sharp enough to cut through reinforced hull plating. They'd been purchased by the only species in the galaxy that seemed to understand how to actually use apex predators effectively. The Razorwing struck at dawn, which demonstrated either tactical brilliance or spectacular stupidity, depending on your perspective. Dawn attacks worked against herbivores whose night vision was evolutionary afterthought. Against Vorthak, whose ancestors had hunted in absolute darkness for millions of years, dawn attacks were roughly equivalent to announcing your presence with fireworks and a marching band. Keth Moore crouched in the tall grass at the edge of Sector 7, watching the native predators execute their coordinated assault on a livestock cluster. Their technique was admirable, disciplined, systematic, efficient. Under different circumstances, he might have respected their methodology. "Flanking positions established," Velkaris reported through the communication array Dr. Thorne had provided. The devices were military-grade, encrypted, and surprisingly compatible with Vorthak vocal frequencies. Another small mystery in a situation already saturated with them. "Northern approach secured," confirmed Jektal from his overwatch position. "Count 15 Razorwings, arranged in standard pack hierarchy. Alpha pair leading the primary assault. Beta members executing containment maneuvers." Through his earpiece, Keth Moore heard Dr. Thorne's voice from the command post. "Assessment?" The question still felt strange. No hegemony commander had ever asked for assessment during active combat. Orders flowed downward, body counts flowed upward, and strategic analysis was reserved for beings higher up the bureaucratic food chain. "Textbook predator tactics," Keth Moore replied, studying the Razorwing formation with professional interest. "Efficient, coordinated, sustainable. They're not hunting for immediate consumption. This is resource acquisition with long-term planning. Meaning? They're establishing territorial dominance over your livestock as a renewable food source. Smart, patient, strategically sound. Kethmore paused, calculating angles and timing. Also completely predictable once you understand their operational philosophy. Recommendations. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Recommendations implied that his opinion mattered, that his tactical expertise was valued beyond simple execution of orders. The concept was intoxicating in ways that made him deeply uncomfortable. Standard pack disruption protocol, he decided. Target the alpha pair first, scatter the coordination structure, exploit the resulting confusion to eliminate strategic threats while allowing non-essential members to retreat. Authorization granted, Dr. Thorne replied. Execute at your discretion. At your discretion. 3 words that redefined everything. Kethmore signaled his pack with the subtle claw gestures that had coordinated Vorthak hunting strategies since before the hegemony discovered space travel. 12 apex predators moved with synchronized precision, flowing through the grassland like death given form and purpose. The Razorwing Alpha never saw him coming. One moment it was directing its pack's livestock acquisition strategy, the next moment Kethmore's claws were removing its head from its shoulders with surgical efficiency. The beta male spun toward the threat, confusion replacing tactical confidence, and found Velcaris already in position to terminate its command authority permanently. What followed wasn't so much a battle as a demonstration of why apex predators earned their classification. The Razorwing pack, deprived of leadership and confronted with superior tactical coordination, dissolved into individual survival responses. Most fled. The ones that didn't became object lessons in the difference between hunting livestock and engaging military-trained predators. Threat neutralized, Kethmore reported, surveying the aftermath with professional satisfaction. Livestock secured, territorial challenge eliminated, surviving Razorwings unlikely to return given demonstration of superior force projection. Outstanding work, Dr. Thorne's voice carried genuine appreciation rather than relief. Casualty report? 0 friendly casualties. Enemy losses, 7 eliminated, 8 retreated. Optimal outcome achieved with minimal resource expenditure. Through the communication array, Kethmore heard something that took several seconds to identify. Dr. Thorne was chuckling, not the bitter laugh of a commander who had expected higher losses, but the satisfied amusement of someone whose strategic assessment had been validated. Something entertaining about our performance? Velcaris asked, her tone carrying just enough edge to remind everyone that she was still covered in Razorwing blood. Mara owes me 50 credits, Dr. Thorne replied. She predicted you'd eliminate 10 Razorwings and lose at least 1 team member to inexperience with local predator tactics. I calculated that professional apex predators wouldn't underestimate unknown threats. The statement hit like a revelation wrapped in casual conversation. Dr. Thorne hadn't just expected them to succeed. He'd bet on their tactical competence against someone who knew them professionally. More than that, he'd understood their operational capabilities well enough to make accurate predictions about performance metrics. You analyzed our probable tactical response? Jektal asked, his tracker instincts fascinated, despite himself. I read your military service records before the auction, Dr. Thorne admitted. 3rd hunting cast, 18 major campaigns, 0 mission. Failures. Innovative tactical adaptations under pressure. I didn't purchase 12 predators. I invested in 12 military specialists with apex predator capabilities. The ground vehicle approached across the field, carrying Mara and her tactical assessment team. As they drew closer, Kethmore could see recording equipment, sample collection tools, and what appeared to be medical supplies. Post-mission analysis, Mara announced, stepping out of the vehicle with the casual confidence of someone approaching friendly military assets rather than dangerous predators. performance metrics, tactical observations, and injury assessment. No injuries, Velkaris reported, though she submitted to Mara's professional examination without complaint. Standard engagement, optimal outcome. Standard for you, maybe, Mara replied, running a scanner over Velkaris's claws to check for stress fractures. We've been dealing with razor-wing incursions for 2 years. Previous solutions involved automated defense systems, mercenary contractors, and environmental modification. Combined cost per incident averaged 40,000 credits with 60% success rates. She gestured towards the eliminated razor wings, with something approaching admiration. Your approach? 0 credits in material resources, 100% success rate, comprehensive solution that addresses root cause rather than symptoms. Plus, you did it in 12 minutes. Kethmore found himself experiencing an emotion he couldn't immediately classify. Pride was familiar. Vorthak took pride in successful hunts, in tactical excellence, in demonstrated superiority. But this felt different, deeper, more complex. Recognition. That was the word his mind had been searching for. For the first time since their military service began, someone who wasn't a Vorthak understood what they were actually capable of accomplishing. Dr. Thorne, he said, studying the human who had somehow figured out how to optimize apex predators better than an empire built on conquest. This wasn't livestock protection. This was strategic asset deployment. Correct, Dr. Thorne replied, though I suspect you're beginning to understand that effective livestock protection requires strategic thinking rather than simple violence application. The implications were staggering. Humans hadn't purchased them to guard farm animals. They'd recruited them as tactical consultants for an agricultural operation that apparently understood military science better than most actual militaries. We're not slaves, Velkaris said, the realization hitting her with visible force. We're employees. The delegation from the reformed hegemony arrived 3 months later with all the diplomatic subtlety of a plasma bombardment. Their flagship dropped out of hyperspace directly above Verdant Prime, broadcasting liberation proclamations on every frequency while deploying enough firepower to glass a small moon. Attention Vorthak military assets, the transmission began, crackling through the ranch's communication systems with bureaucratic authority. By order of the Emergency Military Council, you are hereby recalled to active duty. Prepare for immediate extraction and reassignment to critical defense positions. Kethmore looked up from the tactical planning session, where he'd been reviewing defensive strategies for the upcoming storm season. Around the conference table, human agricultural specialists continued their discussion of livestock rotation schedules as if an Imperial war fleet hadn't just announced its intention to kidnap their security consultants. Reformed hegemony? Dr. Thorne asked, studying the tactical displays with the calm interest of someone solving an academic puzzle. That's new terminology. The original hegemony collapsed 6 weeks ago, Velkaris replied, her voice carrying the bitter satisfaction of someone watching a pyramid scheme finally run out of victims. Something about military efficiency declining dramatically after they liquidated their primary enforcement assets. A second transmission followed, this one carrying the authoritative tones of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. Vorthak Pack Leader Kethmore, this is General Vex Thalen of the Emergency Military Council. You and your subordinates will report for extraction within 1 standard hour. The reformed hegemony requires your expertise to maintain order during our reconstruction phase. The irony was so perfect it practically crystallized in the air around them. The same bureaucratic geniuses who had sold apex predators like surplus equipment now desperately needed those same predators to prevent their new government from collapsing into the same chaos that had destroyed the old one. Subordinates, Jektal repeated, testing the word like he was identifying poison. Interesting how their terminology changed once they needed us again. Dr. Thorne's communication console chimed with an incoming priority message. "Additional visitors," he announced, scanning the display. "The Galactic Trade Federation, the Free Worlds Alliance, and something called the Predator Liberation Front are all requesting permission to make offers for your services." Through the conference room's viewports, Keith Moore could see additional ships materializing in orbit. Within minutes, Verdant Prime found itself hosting what amounted to an interstellar auction for 12 apex predators who had recently discovered the difference between being owned and being valued. "Popular demand," Mara observed, joining the meeting with her characteristic directness. "The Galactic Trade Federation is offering military command positions with full autonomy. The Free Worlds Alliance wants you to establish their new Predator Corps. And the Liberation Front is promising something they call species dignity restoration. All of them are offering what the hegemony never provided," Velkaris noted. "Respect, autonomy, leadership, positions. Everything we thought we wanted when we were chained in that auction house." The communication system activated again, this time carrying multiple voices as various delegations competed for attention. Command positions, territorial grants, military ranks, and enough resources to establish their own sovereign predator state. The offers escalated with each transmission until they resembled the fantasy fulfillment of every apex predator who had ever served under bureaucratic incompetence. "Impressive package deals," Dr. Thorne commented, reviewing the formal proposals as they arrived. "The reformed hegemony is offering restoration of your military ranks plus territorial governorships. The Trade Federation proposes mercenary commander positions with equity stakes in their security corporation. The Free Worlds Alliance wants you to design their entire military strategy from scratch." "And the Liberation Front?" Kethmore asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Complete independence. Your own world, your own government, recognition as a sovereign predator nation with full diplomatic status." The offers hung in the air like gravity bombs, each one representing everything the Vorthak had been denied during their military service. Respect, authority, the right to make strategic decisions without interference from creatures who understood neither hunting nor warfare. "Decisions. Decisions," Velkaris murmured, studying the formal contracts with professional interest. "Return to military service with actual authority, establish a mercenary corporation with guaranteed profits, design military strategy for grateful allies, or become sovereign rulers of our own territory. All attractive options," Jektal agreed, "particularly considering our current legal status as purchased agricultural consultants." Dr. Thorne leaned back in his chair, his expression carrying the patient amusement of someone watching a complex equation solve itself. "Legal status is negotiable, though I'm curious about your professional assessment of these opportunities." Professional assessment. Even now, facing offers that could reshape their entire species' future, the human was asking for their tactical evaluation rather than making demands or emotional appeals. "The reformed hegemony will collapse within 2 years," Kethmore said, applying military analysis to political structures. "Same fundamental problems, same bureaucratic inefficiencies, same inability to optimize resources. They're offering command positions in a doomed system. The Trade Federation proposal has merit," Velkaris added, "but mercenary work lacks strategic continuity, short-term profits, long-term instability, no sustainable operational framework." "The Free Worlds Alliance opportunity offers creative satisfaction," Jektal concluded. "But designing military strategy for politicians who don't understand tactical realities is a recipe for professional frustration." "And sovereign independence?" Dr. Thorne asked. The question hung in the conference room like a challenge. Sovereign independence represented everything they had never been allowed to want: complete autonomy, absolute authority, freedom from serving anyone's interests except their own. "Sovereign independence is a beautiful concept," Kethmore said slowly, working through the implications with the same methodical precision he applied to threat assessment. Complete freedom to make our own choices, answer to no one, build whatever kind of society we think serves our interests. But, Dr. Thorne prompted. But we've spent the last 3 months learning something none of these offers address, Velkaris replied. Autonomy without purpose is just elaborate unemployment. Authority without meaningful challenges is just bureaucratic masturbation. And independence without worthy partners is just sophisticated isolation. The truth crystallized with mathematical clarity. Every delegation was offering to restore what the hegemony had taken away: military rank, territorial control, species authority. None of them were offering what the humans had accidentally provided: the opportunity to be excellent at something that mattered. The offers assume we want to return to being apex predators in the traditional sense, Jektal observed. Dominant, independent, served by others rather than serving with others. They're trying to give us back our chains, Kethmore realized. Better chains, prettier chains, chains we can hold ourselves, but still chains that define us by what we dominate rather than what we accomplish. Dr. Thorne's smile carried the satisfaction of someone whose long-term strategic assessment had finally been validated. Interesting perspective, though I should mention that our current arrangement has been quite profitable for the consortium. Your tactical innovations have reduced our security costs by 87%, while improving operational efficiency across all sectors. Profitable enough to negotiate equity participation? Velkaris asked, her tone carrying the casual confidence of someone who had learned to think like a strategic partner rather than a military asset. I was hoping you'd ask, Dr. Thorne replied. Mara has been developing a proposal for expanded operations, additional ranch sites, diversified agricultural systems, comprehensive security solutions for other agricultural worlds. We could use experienced partners who understand both tactical operations and strategic planning. The communication console chimed with another urgent transmission from the reformed hegemony, demanding immediate response to their extraction orders. Kethmore looked at his pack, reading the same realization in their expressions that he felt crystallizing in his own mind. They'd been purchased by the only species in the galaxy that had figured out how to transform apex predators into something more dangerous than weapons. Partners who chose their own battles. Dr. Thorne, Kethmore said, reaching for the communication controls. We need to send some messages, starting with an explanation to General Vex Thalen about why his extraction orders constitute breach of contract with our current employers. The most dangerous predators, it turned out, were the ones who volunteered to follow you, and the most effective chains were the ones that felt like freedom.